The skies above the Pacific Ocean were clear and blue when the alien ship tore through Earth's atmosphere. Trailing smoke and debris, the vessel plummeted toward the water's surface. Navy ships closest to the crash site rushed to the area as the spacecraft sank beneath the waves. Commander Kate Miller stood on the deck of the USS Liberty, watching as divers prepared to explore the wreckage. At 42, she had seen many strange things during her military career, but nothing like this. First contact with alien life had occurred a decade ago, but this was different. The other arrivals had been planned, diplomatic. This was a crash. "Commander, the divers report movement inside the vessel," said her communications officer. Kate nodded. "Tell them to proceed with caution. Dr. Wright's team should be ready to assist any survivors." Dr. Alan Wright, Earth's leading xenobiologist, adjusted his glasses and checked his medical equipment one final time. His heart raced at the thought of encountering a new species. In the 10 years since humanity had joined the galactic community, he had studied 6 different alien species, each one peaceful, each one willing to share knowledge. "They're bringing something up," someone shouted. The divers surfaced with a creature unlike any the humans had seen before. It had 4 arms and skin that shifted colors like an octopus. Its eyes, 3 of them, were large and dark. "It needs oxygen," Alan said, rushing forward with his team. They placed a breathing mask designed for alien biology over what they guessed was its respiratory intake. The alien's skin turned from a deep blue to a lighter shade. It was alive. 6 hours later, in a secure medical bay aboard the Liberty, the alien regained consciousness. Ambassador Nicole Carter had arrived by helicopter to handle first contact protocols. "I am Nicole Carter, representing Earth," she said, using the universal translator developed through previous alien encounters. The alien's skin rippled. "I am Vax of the Tauri. I come with warning." Its voice through the translator sounded tired and strained. Kate stepped forward. "Warning of what?" "The harvesters. They destroy everything in their path. They have consumed 12 systems already. Yours will be next." Vax's skin darkened. "The council races are evacuating as we speak." Alan checked the alien's vital signs. On his tablet, "You need rest." "No time," Vax insisted. "They follow. Days, perhaps." Nicole glanced at Kate, concern etched on her face. "The other species, our allies, they're evacuating?" "All flee. It is our way. When harvesters come, survival means retreat." Kate frowned. "And if we fight?" Vax's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "None fight, none win." Within 24 hours, Earth's Global Defense Council gathered in an underground facility beneath Geneva. Representatives from all nations sat in tiered seats, watching as Kate, Nicole, and Alan presented their findings. On the main screen, transmissions from Earth's alien allies showed massive evacuations. The Centauri, humanoid beings with silvery skin, loaded their children onto giant ships. The insect-like Proxima gathered their egg clutches. The gas-based Rigelians condensed themselves into transport containers. "All 6 species we've made contact with are abandoning their worlds," Nicole explained. "Their civilizations are thousands of years older than ours, yet they see no option but to run." A council member from Brazil stood up. "Then perhaps we should consider evacuation as, well, we have the Mars colony, our moon bases. Those couldn't support even a fraction of Earth's population," Kate countered. "And the report suggests these harvesters don't just take planets. They strip them of all resources. Earth would be uninhabitable." Alan stepped forward. "I've been studying the biological data from our alien allies. There's something interesting about humans compared to the other species." He displayed a chart on the screen. "Humans evolved as persistence predators. We can keep going when others need rest. We heal faster than any species we've encountered. Our endurance is exceptional." "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" asked the council leader. "I'm suggesting that maybe there's a reason no one has stood against these harvesters. Maybe the other species aren't physically or psychologically equipped for prolonged conflict. But humans, we have a history of standing our ground against overwhelming odds." Kate nodded. Throughout our history, we've faced seemingly impossible situations, the few against the many, and sometimes we've won. The room fell silent as Nicole played a final transmission. It showed Vax's homeworld, a beautiful blue-green planet. Then shadows fell across its surface as enormous ships moved into position. Beams of energy struck the planet, and entire continents were scorched black. "This happened 3 weeks ago," Nicole said softly. Vax's ship was one of the few that escaped. Kate stepped to the center of the room. "I know what the other species are doing. I understand their choice to run, but Earth is our home. Humanity has never been good at running away." She looked around the room. "We've spent our existence fighting, sometimes each other, but always fighting to survive. It's in our nature." A representative from Kenya spoke up. "Commander Miller, even if what you say is true, how can we possibly stand against a force that has conquered so many worlds?" "Because we have to," Kate replied simply, "and because we'll do what humans have always done: adapt, improvise, and fight like hell." Alan displayed new information on the screen. "The harvesters have a pattern. They send scout ships first. If we can capture one, study their technology, we might find a weakness," Kate finished. As the council debated, signals came in from Earth's orbital defenses. Unknown ships had entered the solar system near Pluto. "They're here earlier than expected," Nicole said, her voice steady despite her fear. The council leader stood. "We need to vote. Do we attempt evacuation or do we stand our ground?" Kate looked at each person in the room. Every other species ran, but running hasn't saved them. They've lost their homes, their history, everything that made them who they are. I say we choose differently. The vote was not unanimous, but the decision was made. Humanity would not run. Earth would fight. As the council dispersed to begin preparations, Kate found Vax in the medical wing. The alien's skin had turned a pale green. "Your people have decided?" Vax asked. "We're staying. We're going to fight." Vax's skin rippled with colors Kate couldn't interpret. "Strange. No species has made this choice." "That's because they're not human," Kate said. "We're stubborn that way." For the first time, the alien's mouth formed what might have been a smile. Perhaps that is what is needed." As Kate left to begin organizing Earth's defenses, she looked out a window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, the enemy approached, but this enemy had never faced humans before, and that, she decided, was their first mistake. The next 3 days on Earth were unlike any in human history. Cities emptied as people moved to underground shelters. Factories switched from making cars and computers to producing weapons and armor. Farmers harvested their crops early, storing food for what might be a long fight. Major Daniel Hayes stood in the war room beneath Geneva, watching as screens showed the movement of alien ships. They were now past the orbit of Neptune, moving slowly but steadily toward Earth. "They're being careful," he said to Kate Miller, who had barely slept since the crash. "They're not rushing in." Kate nodded. "Good. That gives us more time." "Time? For what?" Daniel asked. "Our weapons are nothing compared to theirs." "Time to learn," Kate replied. She pointed to another screen where Chief Engineer Olivia Brown worked with a team around what remained of Vax's ship. "Olivia thinks she can adapt some of their technology to our defense systems." Olivia Brown had never seen anything like the alien technology. The metals were strange, the power systems unlike anything humans had developed, but she understood the principles. Energy was energy, no matter where it came from. "The hull material absorbs energy," she explained to her team. "If we can reproduce it, even in small amounts, we could shield our fighters." In another part of the facility, Representative Sam Powell met with aliens who had chosen not to flee. There weren't many, just a handful from each species, but they brought knowledge. "The harvesters have never faced resistance," said a tall, slender alien named Zin. Its skin was pale blue and it spoke through a translator device. "They expect evacuation." "What happens when they don't get it?" Sam asked. "Unknown," Zin replied, "but I wish to help you find out." The alien warriors, Who stayed behind were outcasts among their own kind. Choosing to fight went against their species' survival instincts. But something about humanity's stand had moved them. In orbit around Earth, military satellites were repositioned. The handful of space warships humanity possessed, never before used in actual combat, moved into defensive positions. On Mars, civilians were evacuated from Earth, setting up emergency colonies in the underground habitats. 6 days after Vax's arrival, the first real breakthrough came. "Commander, you need to see this," Major Hayes called to Kate. He led her to a secure room where a holographic display showed the movements of the harvester ships. "What am I looking at?" Kate asked. "Their approach patterns," Daniel explained. "See how they avoid direct paths to Earth? They're going around Jupiter, Saturn, taking the long way." Kate studied the display. "They're avoiding direct confrontation." "Yes. And when I analyzed their course corrections, I noticed something else." Daniel zoomed in on the display. "Every time one of our patrol ships moves toward them, they adjust course to maintain distance." Kate's eyes widened. "They're afraid of us?" "Not afraid exactly, but cautious. They've encountered 6 other species in this sector, all of whom ran away. We're the first to move toward them." This information changed everything. Kate called an emergency meeting with the Defense Council. "If they're uncertain about us, we can use that," she explained. "We make them more uncertain. We do the unexpected." In the engineering bay, Olivia made her own discovery. The materials in Vax's ship could be combined with Earth metals to create weapons that might actually damage harvester vessels. "It won't be enough for a direct assault," she told Kate. "But for hit-and-run attacks, for guerrilla warfare in space, yes, this could work." On the 8th day, as the harvester fleet crossed the orbit of Mars, the first group of volunteer alien warriors formally joined Earth's defense forces. There were only 23 of them, but each brought unique abilities and knowledge. A large 4-armed alien named Krek demonstrated fighting techniques that used low gravity to advantage. A small, quick alien called Mira showed human pilots how to predict energy weapon trajectories. Zin, who had knowledge of harvester communications, worked with Earth's hackers to develop ways to intercept and understand enemy signals. "Why help us?" Kate asked Zin one evening. "Your people left." Zin's eyes, large and golden, blinked slowly. "My people have run for 3 generations, always running, never home. I watched my grandparents die, still speaking of the world they lost. I would rather die fighting for your world than live forever running." On the 10th day, the harvester fleet stopped. They held position just beyond the moon, a swarm of dark ships visible through telescopes from Earth. "They're scanning us," Daniel reported. "Heavy electromagnetic activity. They're studying our defenses." "Let them look," Kate said. "They won't understand what they're seeing." Unlike the other species the harvesters had encountered, humans had developed in isolation, creating technology and tactics uniquely their own. The harvesters had never seen nuclear weapons, never encountered jet propulsion or radar systems. Earth's technology was primitive compared to theirs, but it was also unfamiliar. On the 12th day, a small fleet of harvester scout ships broke away from the main group and moved toward Earth. "They're testing us," Kate said. "Prepare the orbital defense platforms." Earth's orbital weapons, hastily upgraded with the alien technology Olivia had adapted, powered up. 20 human pilots, flying ships retrofitted with the new shields, moved into position. "Remember the plan," Kate's voice came through their communication systems. "Don't engage directly. Hit and run, make them chase you." The pilots acknowledged. Among them was Lieutenant Paul Johnson, flying an experimental craft that combined human and alien technology. His ship was faster but less armored than the others. "Scout, ships entering firing range," reported the Orbital Defense Command. "Hold fire," Kate ordered. "Let them come closer." The harvester scouts moved cautiously, their strange asymmetrical shapes growing larger on the screens. They seemed to hesitate as they detected Earth's defenses. "They're scanning us again," Daniel reported. "Now," Kate ordered. Earth's ships didn't attack directly. Instead, they darted in, fired quick bursts at the harvester's sensor arrays, and pulled away. The alien ships turned to pursue, exactly as Kate had hoped. The orbital platforms fired next, not at the ships but at the space around them, creating clouds of debris that confused the Harvester's sensors. "They're breaking formation," Daniel reported. "Two are turning back." "Lieutenant Johnson, you're up," Kate said. Paul's ship, faster than the others, darted past the Harvester scouts, firing precision shots at their engines. One scout ship began to spin, its propulsion system damaged. "I didn't destroy it," Paul reported. "Just disabled it." "Perfect," Kate replied. "Recovery team, move in." This had been the real plan all along, not to destroy the scouts but to capture one. As the disabled Harvester ship drifted, a larger Earth vessel moved in, extending mechanical arms to secure it. The other Harvester scouts retreated, returning to the main fleet. For the first time in their history, they had lost a ship to an enemy. On Earth, Kate allowed herself a small smile. "First round to humanity," she said quietly. As humans and their alien allies prepared to study the captured ship, the main Harvester fleet began to change formation. They were adapting, learning. The next round would be harder. But for the first time since the Harvesters began their campaign of destruction, they had met a species that didn't run. And now, that species had one of their ships. The captured Harvester scout ship sat in a secure hangar beneath the Rocky Mountains. Teams of scientists and engineers worked around the clock to understand its technology. The ship was unlike anything humans had seen before. Its hull seemed to be made of something that was neither metal nor plastic, but had properties of both. Captain Linda Garcia watched as researchers carefully examined the ship's control systems. As commander of the EDS Defiant, Earth's largest space warship, she needed to know what they were facing. "Anything useful?" she asked Dr. Wright, who was taking samples from what appeared to be the ship's engine. "More than useful," Alan replied, his face excited despite his exhaustion. "Their power systems are efficient but not magical. We can understand them, and more importantly, we can disrupt them." Linda nodded. This was why she had requested to observe the research. In 3 days, she would lead Earth's main fleet against the Harvesters. Any advantage would help. At a nearby workstation, communications specialist Greg Wilson worked with Zinn, the alien who had knowledge of Harvester communications. They had been trying to decode the signals from the main Harvester fleet. "I think I've got something," Greg said, adjusting his headphones. "It's not a language exactly. More like data packets." Zinn's long fingers moved over the controls. "Yes, the Harvesters do not speak as we do. They share information directly." Greg looked up. "Like a computer network?" "Similar, yes," Zinn replied. "But organic." This was a crucial discovery. If the Harvesters communicated like networked computers, they might be vulnerable to the same kinds of attacks that affected human networks. While the research teams worked, Earth prepared for the coming battle. The Harvester fleet had begun to move again, spreading out in a wide formation as they approached the moon. On the bridge of the Defiant, Linda received her final orders from Commander Miller. "We can't match them ship for ship," Kate said over the secure channel, "but we don't need to. Hit their command vessels, disrupt their communications, then retreat. Make them chase you toward the orbital defense platforms." "Understood," Linda replied. "And if we get a clean shot at their main vessel?" Kate's face was serious. "Take it, but don't sacrifice your ship or your crew. We're going to need everyone for what comes next." The plan was risky. Earth's fleet was smaller and less powerful than the Harvesters. But they had several advantages. First, they were defending their home territory. Second, they had the intelligence gathered from the captured scout ship. And third, they had Lieutenant Paul Johnson. Paul had shown remarkable skill during the scout ship capture. Now he would pilot a special craft loaded with a disruptive device designed by Olivia Brown, based on the Harvester technology. "Your job is to get close enough to their command ship to deploy the device," Linda told Paul during the final briefing. "Once activated, it should disrupt their communications for about 10 minutes. 10 minutes isn't much time," Paul said. "It's all we need to break their formation and force them to fight on our terms," Linda replied. The Earth fleet, consisting of 30 warships and over 100 smaller fighters, moved into position near the Moon. The Harvester fleet, nearly 3 times larger, continued its advance. All ships maintain formation, Linda ordered from the Defiant. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. The space between Earth and Moon became a battlefield. The Harvester ships fired first, their energy weapons cutting through the darkness of space. Several Earth fighters took hits, their shields absorbing some but not all of the energy. Evasive maneuvers, Linda ordered. Don't give them a stationary target. The human ships broke formation, moving in seemingly random patterns that confused the Harvesters. The alien ships had never encountered such tactics before. They were used to orderly retreats, not chaotic counterattacks. Lieutenant Paul Johnson piloted his craft toward the largest Harvester vessel. His ship was small and fast, designed to look like debris to the Harvester sensors. I'm approaching the target, he reported. Their outer defenses are heavy. We'll create a distraction, Linda replied. Stand by. The Defiant and 3 other warships suddenly accelerated, firing their main weapons at the Harvester fleet's right flank. The attack was a feint, meant to draw attention away from Paul's approach. It worked. The Harvester ships turned to meet the threat, leaving a gap in their defenses. Now, Lieutenant, Linda ordered. Paul pushed his ship to maximum speed, darting through the gap. Harvester energy beams lashed out, one grazing his ship's hull. Taking damage but still operational, he reported. I can see the command ship. The Harvester command vessel was enormous, nearly a mile long. Its surface was covered with what looked like sensors and weapon ports. Paul maneuvered his ship close to its underside, where the defenses seemed lighter. Deploying the device now, he said, pressing the release control. The disruptive device, a small probe built with reverse-engineered Harvester technology, attached itself to the alien ship's hull. It activated with a pulse of energy that was invisible to human eyes but sent shockwaves through the Harvester communication network. Device activated, Paul reported, heading back to his transmission cut off as a Harvester energy beam struck his ship directly. The small craft tumbled, leaking atmosphere. Lieutenant Johnson, report, Linda called. There was no response, but the device was working. The Harvester fleet's movements became erratic. Ships collided with each other as their coordinated maneuvers fell apart. All ships attack pattern Delta, Linda ordered. Target their engines and communication arrays. Earth's fleet moved in, striking the now confused Harvester ships with precision. They couldn't destroy many of the larger vessels, but they could damage them, force them back. In the command center on Earth, Greg Wilson noticed something in the Harvester communications. They're confused, he told Kate. I'm picking up what seems like questions. They don't understand why we're fighting back. Kate leaned over his console. Can you send a message to them? I think so, but it would be very basic. Send this. We will not run. This is our home. Greg worked with Zinn to convert the message into the Harvester communication format. They sent it directly to the command ship. In space, the battle continued. Earth ships took heavy damage, but the Harvesters were taking losses, too, something they had never experienced before. Then, unexpectedly, the Harvester fleet began to pull back, not just a tactical retreat, but a full withdrawal. They were leaving Earth's orbit, heading back toward the outer planets. They're running away, Linda said in disbelief. We did it. But Kate Miller, watching from Earth, knew better. No, she said. They're regrouping. This was just the first wave. They'll be back, with a better understanding of what they're facing. As Earth's fleet returned home to repair and regroup, a small human ship floated in the debris field of the battle. Inside, Lieutenant Paul Johnson had managed to seal the worst of the hull breaches. His communications were down, but his emergency beacon was active. As he watched the Harvester fleet retreat into the darkness of space, he allowed himself a small smile. For the first time ever, the Harvesters had faced resistance, and they hadn't known how to handle it. Humanity had won the first real battle, but the war was just beginning. 3 weeks passed since the first major battle with the Harvesters. Earth used this time wisely. Damaged ships were repaired. New weapons were built using knowledge gained from the captured scout ship. The injured recovered, and those lost were mourned. Lieutenant Paul Johnson was found alive 2 days after the battle. His small ship had drifted among the debris, running on emergency power. When rescue teams brought him back to Earth, he was greeted as a hero. But there was little time for celebrations. The Harvester fleet had retreated to Jupiter's orbit, where they appeared to be building something massive. General Frank Martinez stood in the Global Command Center, looking at the latest satellite images. At 65, he was the oldest active military commander, with gray hair and a face lined from years of service. "They're constructing a mothership," he said to the gathered leaders, "much larger than anything we've seen before." Kate Miller nodded. "Our alien allies say this is their standard tactic after meeting resistance. They build a central command vessel that coordinates their entire fleet." Dr. Julia Stewart, the chief scientist studying harvester biology, stepped forward. She was 40, with short brown hair and intense focus in her eyes. For weeks she had been examining tissue samples from the captured scout ship. "We've made a critical discovery," she said. "The harvesters aren't individual beings like us. They're a collective, connected through a biological network. Each ship contains thousands of them, all linked together." "Like a hive mind?" Kate asked. "Similar, but more complex," Julia explained. "They share information instantly across their network, but this also means they have a weakness. Disrupt the network, and they become confused and disorganized. This information changed their strategy. If the harvesters relied on their network to function, then humanity needed to find a way to permanently damage that network. In an underwater research facility off the coast of Australia, Olivia Brown worked with Dr. Wright to develop a new type of weapon. It wasn't designed to destroy harvester ships, but to interfere with their biological communication systems. "It's like a virus," Olivia explained to General Martinez during a secure video call. "But for their network, not their bodies. It creates a cascade of false information that will spread through their entire system." "How do we deliver it?" The general asked. "That's the hard part," Olivia admitted. "It needs to be planted directly into their mothership's central processor. This meant a direct infiltration mission, the most dangerous operation yet attempted. Lieutenant Chris Taylor was chosen to lead it. At 32, he was the best Special Forces operative Earth had, with a perfect record of completing seemingly impossible missions. "You'll have a team of 6, General Martinez told him during the briefing. 3 humans and 3 of our alien allies who volunteered." "How do we get onto their mothership?" Chris asked. "We've modified a captured harvester shuttle," Kate explained. "With the right codes, which our communication specialists have cracked, you should be able to approach without raising alarms." The mission was set for 3 days later. But the harvesters moved first. Their fleet, now reorganized and strengthened, began moving toward Earth again. At its center was the newly constructed mothership, a vessel so large it cast a shadow on Jupiter when it passed. "All defense forces to battle stations," General Martinez ordered. "This is what we've been preparing for." Earth's fleet, now almost twice the size it had been during the first battle, moved to intercept. New orbital defense platforms, equipped with weapons based on harvester technology, powered up. On the ground, people moved into shelters built deep underground. As the 2 fleets approached each other near the moon, Lieutenant Chris Taylor and his team boarded the modified harvester shuttle. Their plan was to use the chaos of battle as cover to approach the mothership. "Remember," Chris told his team, "our mission isn't to fight, it's to deliver the virus and get out." The battle began with an exchange of long-range weapons fire. Earth's ships were more maneuverable, darting in and out of the harvester formation, but the aliens had more firepower, their energy beams cutting through space. Chris watched from the shuttle as they approached the battle zone. "Now or never," he said to the pilot, a seasoned Space Force officer. The shuttle accelerated toward the massive harvester mothership, broadcasting the stolen identification codes. For tense minutes they waited to see if the deception would work. "They're letting us through," the pilot reported as the mothership's defensive fire avoided their shuttle. Chris looked at his team, 3 human Special Forces operators and 3 alien warriors who had chosen to fight alongside humanity. Krek, the four-armed warrior, checked his weapons. Mira, small and quick, monitored the mothership's signals. Zin, with his knowledge of harvester systems, would guide them once inside. The shuttle docked with the mothership, connecting to what seemed to be a maintenance port. As the airlock cycled, Chris felt the strangest sensation, a buzzing in his mind, as if thousands of voices were whispering just beyond hearing. "You feel it too?" Zin asked quietly. "The network. It is stronger here." The team moved through the alien vessel, following Zin's directions. The interior was unlike any human ship, organic-looking corridors that seemed to pulse with life, strange lighting that shifted colors constantly. They encountered few harvesters. Those they did see were smaller than expected, almost drone-like, in their movements. "These are not their warriors," Zin explained. "These are workers. The fighters are in the ships." After 20 minutes of careful movement, they reached what Zin identified as the central processor, a large chamber filled with a glowing, pulsating mass that reminded Chris of a giant brain. "That's our target," he said, removing the virus delivery system from his pack. It was a small device no bigger than his hand, but loaded with the program Dr. Stewart and Olivia had created. As Chris moved toward the processor, alarms suddenly blared. The harvesters had detected them. "We've got company," one of the human operators called, pointing to doors that were opening around the chamber. Larger harvesters, clearly designed for combat, poured into the room. They moved with surprising speed, their bodies covered in what looked like natural armor. "Hold them off," Chris ordered as he continued toward the processor. "I need 2 minutes." The team formed a defensive circle, their weapons firing at the approaching harvesters. Krek moved with incredible speed for his size, his forearms wielding different weapons. Mira darted between attackers, using their size against them. The human operators fired precisely, aiming for what intelligence suggested were vital areas. Chris reached the processor and attached the device. He activated it, watching as lights on its surface began to pulse in sequence with the organic mass. "It's working," he called. "Fall back to the shuttle." The team began a fighting retreat. One of the human operators fell, struck by a harvester weapon. Krek lifted him with 2 arms while continuing to fire with the others. As they reached the corridor, leading back to their shuttle, Chris felt the buzzing in his mind change tone. The voices became discordant, confused. The virus was spreading through the network. In space, the battle suddenly shifted. Harvester ships began to move erratically, some firing on their own allies, others simply stopping in place. "What's happening?" General Martinez demanded, watching from the command center. "The virus," Dr. Stewart replied, monitoring the data streams. "It's working. Their network is failing." The mothership itself began to pulse with strange lights. Energy surged visibly across its surface. Chris and his team reached their shuttle just as the mothership's internal systems began to fail. They disconnected from the dock and pushed away from the massive vessel. "All ships target the mothership," General Martinez ordered. "Hit it with everything we have." Earth's fleet concentrated their fire on the now vulnerable mothership. Their weapons, enhanced with harvester technology, tore through the suddenly uncoordinated defenses. As Chris's shuttle raced away from the mothership, the massive vessel began to break apart. The destruction of the central hub sent shockwaves through the harvester network. Their entire fleet fell into disarray. "We did it," Chris said quietly, watching through the shuttle viewport as humanity's weapons finished what the virus had started. The battle wasn't over. Many harvester ships remained functional, but their coordination was gone. Their advantage? Lost. For the first time ever, the harvesters faced not just defeat, but extinction. And humanity, the species that had chosen to stand and fight when all others ran, now stood on the edge of victory. 6 months passed since the destruction of the harvester mothership. The remaining harvester vessels had scattered across the solar system. Without their network to coordinate them, they were dangerous but disorganized. Earth's forces hunted them one by one, each victory easier than the last. President Laura Bennett stood at a large window in the new Global Unity Tower in Geneva, looking out at the city being rebuilt. At 58, She had been elected to lead Earth's united government after the war changed everything. Nations still existed, but the fight against the harvesters had created a new level of cooperation between them. "Madam President, they're ready for you," an aide said from the doorway. Laura nodded and straightened her jacket. Today was an important day, perhaps the most important since the war began. Today, representatives from all known alien species were gathering on Earth, not as refugees or warriors, but as equals. The meeting hall was circular, with seats arranged to give no position more importance than others. Laura took her place as Earth's representative. Around her sat aliens of various shapes, sizes, and colors. Some she recognized: Vax, the Tari who had brought the first warning; Zin, who had fought alongside humans; representatives from the 6 species Earth had known before the harvesters. But there were new faces too. Word had spread across the galaxy. Species that had been running from the harvesters for generations were coming out of hiding, seeking the world where someone had finally stood against the enemy. "Thank you all for coming," Laura began. "Today marks a new chapter for all our peoples." A tall, silver-skinned Centauri stood. "We must first acknowledge what happened here. For 1,000 years our species ran from the harvesters. We abandoned worlds. We lost our history. We lived in fear." The alien bowed deeply to Laura. "Humanity showed us another way." Vax spoke next, his skin shifting through patterns of color that the humans now recognized as signs of deep emotion. "My world is gone. But because of Earth's stand, 100 other worlds are now safe." Admiral Ryan Clark entered the hall next. At 45, he had taken command of Earth's expanded space fleet after General Martinez retired. Behind him came several officers wheeling a container covered with a cloth. "We have completed our work in the outer solar system," Ryan reported. "The last of the harvester ships have been contained." "Contained?" asked one of the new aliens. "Not destroyed?" Ryan nodded to his officers, who removed the cloth from the container. Inside was a clear tank containing what looked like a small purple jellyfish floating in liquid. "This is a harvester," Ryan explained, "in its natural form. Dr. Stewart's team discovered that the harvesters are not naturally aggressive. They were controlled by the network, which itself was controlled by entities we haven't yet identified." Dr. Julia Stewart stepped forward. "We believe the harvesters were being used much like a tool or a weapon. With their network destroyed, they've reverted to their natural state, a peaceful, curious species." This revelation stunned the gathered aliens. For generations they had fled from the harvesters, never understanding what they truly were. "We've established communication with them," Julia continued. "They have no memory of their actions while under network control. They are victims, just as much as those whose worlds were destroyed." Ambassador Nicole Carter, now elevated to High Counselor of the newly formed Galactic Alliance, spoke next. "Which brings us to our proposal. Earth has demonstrated that standing together is stronger than running alone. We suggest a formal alliance of all our species with 3 core principles: mutual defense, shared knowledge, and the rehabilitation of the harvesters." The hall buzzed with discussion. Some aliens were hesitant, centuries of running not easily forgotten. Others were enthusiastic, seeing the strength that unity had given humanity. "There is one more thing," Laura said, quieting the room. "Our scientists have been studying the data recovered from the Harvester mothership. We believe the entities that controlled the harvesters are still out there, and they know what happened here." Admiral Clark nodded. "Which is why we've already begun constructing a defensive fleet. Not just Earth ships, but vessels that can accommodate crews from all our species, combining our different technologies and perspectives." Krek, the 4-armed warrior who had fought alongside Lieutenant Chris Taylor, stood. "I will serve on such a ship. My people have been nomads for too long. It is time we fought for our right to have homes." One by one, representatives from each species voiced their support. Even those who had been most hesitant saw the wisdom in unity. The harvesters had been defeated not just by human weapons, but by human determination, a quality that, it seemed, could be learned. 3 days later, after the formal signing of the Galactic Alliance Treaty, A ceremony was held in what had once been Central Park in New York. A memorial had been built there, a simple stone circle with the names of all who had fallen in defense of Earth. Around the memorial stood humans and aliens together. Lieutenant Chris Taylor, still recovering from injuries sustained in the mothership mission, stood with Zinn and Mira. Captain Linda Garcia and her crew from the Defiant were there, along with Major Daniel Hayes and Chief Engineer Olivia Brown. At the center of the circle stood Kate Miller, who had first made the decision that humanity would not run. Beside her was Vax, the first alien to see humans for what they truly were. "We gather to honor those who gave their lives," Kate said, her voice carrying across the quiet park. "Not just for Earth, but for all worlds, all peoples." Vax stepped forward. "On my world, we had a saying. The path taken by all must be the right one. For generations we believed that running was the only choice because everyone ran." His skin rippled with blue and gold. "Humanity showed us that the path less traveled can lead to victory." As the ceremony ended, people moved toward a large covered object at the edge of the memorial. President Bennett pulled away the covering to reveal a statue, not of a human hero but of figures from all species standing together. At its base were written words in multiple languages, but the English read, "We stand together." That evening, as the first stars became visible in Earth's sky, Kate Miller stood alone at the memorial. She thought of how close they had come to running, to abandoning Earth as so many other species had abandoned their homes. "Commander," a voice said behind her. It was Vax. "Just Kate now," she replied. "I'm retiring from active service." "To do what?" Vax asked. Kate smiled. "To teach. The next generation needs to know why we stood our ground. Why running isn't always the answer." Vax's skin showed patterns that Kate had learned meant understanding. "My people have a new saying now, learned from humans. Some things are worth fighting for." Above them, visible even through Earth's atmosphere, the lights of the new Galactic Defense Fleet shone like new stars. Ships crewed by humans and aliens together, prepared to defend not just one world, but all worlds, because when the next threat came, no species would face it alone. No one would need to run. They would stand together as humanity had taught them to do.